Hello, I'm Matthew Moore, and today in the Nexus we're looking at the disgraced movie producer Harvey Weinstein, who's currently out on bail, now indicted on charges of rape. His lawyer's confident he'll walk free, our panel's not so sure. The actor, Juman Short, worked on a Weinstein movie, and she says she had her own encounter with the producer. In New York, we have Vinoo Varghese. He's a former prosecutor, and he's there to give us the legal aspect on this. And finally, our own investigative reporter, Asad Beg. He joins us here in London. Well, let's go straight to the former prosecutor, Vinoo Varghese. Vinoo, just for our viewers who don't have a legal background, on Friday he was charged. On Wednesday evening, he was indicted. This case is moving forward then.
Yeah, it is a basic procedural hurdle that the prosecutors need to clear. It's a very easy one. It's just a piece of paper as an indictment.
Vinoo, let's go through Weinstein's lawyer's statement, why he wants to have this case dismissed. Let's listen to the first one now, where he's talking about constitutionally flawed. Let's have a listen.
We intend to move very quickly to dismiss these charges. We believe that they are constitutionally flawed. We believe that they are not factually supported by the evidence, and we believe that at the end of the process, Mr. Weinstein will be exonerated.
Vinnie, just on that bit of jargon, constitutionally flawed, what does that mean?
It could mean a couple different things from what he's saying. It could mean that he believes that his client's due process rights have been violated. A few years ago, New York eliminated statute of limitations for rape charges. The reason for statute of limitations is it makes it difficult for somebody to defend himself against 14-year-old allegations. Things that would normally clear somebody, like text messages, have be long disappeared and erased.
So, in other words, justice delayed is justice denied. Sure. Well, actually, that's the point he made just a few seconds after that. He went on to say this.
Many of these allegations are long overdue, quite frankly, having been made about events that are alleged to have occurred many years ago. They were not reported to the police at the time these events occurred.
Vinoo, what would a judge make of those objections?
Well, it's a very minimal standard for a case to go forward. So I don't think he's going to succeed on that. That alone becomes a question of credibility, and that's usually left to the jury.
Vinoo, you were a prosecutor. You know what it's like to cross-examine witnesses, and in his statement, that's exactly what this lawyer was saying he was going to do, and he didn't think they were going to stand up to his cross-examination. Let's have a listen to him.
I anticipate that the women who have made these allegations, when subjected to cross-examination, in the event we even get that far, that the charges will not be believed by 12 people, assuming we get 12 fair people who are not consumed by the movement that seems to have overtaken this case.
Vinoo, you defend your clients in court. If you were cross-examining these women, what sort of tactics would you pursue?
I think you do exactly what Mr. Brockman is saying. You go hard at them. I mean, there's a whole bunch of issues as to why these women didn't report this right away. I mean, it's interesting now in light of the Me Too movement, all this stuff, how many people are jumping on the bandwagon. It's the Harvey Weinstein pie, and the prosecutors in New York were the first ones to get him. So there's a lot of pressure on the Manhattan DA's office to bring something, because the district attorney, Cy Vance, has been under criticism for a long time for not going after Weinstein earlier. So that doesn't mean this case is particularly strong. You may have just caved into public pressure.
When it comes to the women themselves, you would say, why didn't you tell the police? Why have you waited so long? You're jumping on the bandwagon. Is there anything else in the lawyer's armory he could bring out on them?
Well, you look at what you gained from all of this.
Yeah.
Did you keep a relationship with Mr. Weinstein? One of the things that the lawyer has said is that the woman who's alleging the rape, that Weinstein and he had an affair for 10 years, including after the incident. This is common. We've had a number of clients over the years who were accused of a violent crime of forcible rape, and then we see text messages from the alleged victim to the person, hey, when are we going out? What are we doing? And all this stuff. Well, if you've been raped, I mean, why are you contacting the person? Why haven't you gone to the police? And that's the problem with these old cases. The text messages companies delete after 90 days.
Sure.
And there's no way to retrieve them. So all you can see is that there's been a history, but you don't know what's been said.
Now, to be clear for our viewers, this is the allegation being made by the woman who's keeping her identity anonymous. In addition to that,
Right.
presumably you could also say, look, this is your word against his. It's a one-on-one situation.
Yes, of course. I mean, and that's what I'm saying. You know, look, his attorneys face an uphill task because of the atmosphere in which this case is brought. Right. So Bill Cosby was the first major celebrity, prosecuted post Me Too. Harvey Weinstein will now be the second, and Harvey Weinstein ones who kicked off the whole Me Too movement.
Now, let's get to know the lawyer himself, Ben Brafman. He's had other high-profile cases. I just want to show you a picture now of Ben Brafman. And in the background there, you see Dominique Strauss-Kahn. He's the former head of the IMF who was charged with sexually abusing a maid in a hotel in New York. And as we know, Brafman convinced the authorities to drop those charges. This is a tough guy, right, Vinoo?
Yes, he's a very well-respected criminal defense lawyer. He's had a lot of success. He's sort of the dean of one of the deans of our profession. So I have a lot of respect.
There's one more objection I want to ask you about, Vinoo, which is that he said, Brafman, the lawyer, has said it's going to be very hard for Harvey Weinstein to get a fair trial when in the court of public opinion he's already been found guilty. And if you look across mainstream media and the satire, I want to play you a clip now from Saturday Night Live. Well, he perhaps has a point. Have a listen to this.
Weinstein, who's been accused of multiple counts of sexual assault, is reportedly going to Europe for sex rehab. Somehow, I don't think that's going to help anybody. He doesn't need sex rehab. He needs a specialized facility where there are no women, no contact with the outside world, metal bars, and it's a prison.
Vinoo, I find it extraordinary here that a man who has not had his day in court yet. Usually you enjoy the innocent till proven guilty. But here, they're moving ahead of the courts.
That's typical, though. I mean, look, the presumption of innocence is a very nice theory. In theory, it's nice, right?
Sure.
Everyone's presumed innocent. But it isn't true. He's already been found guilty in the court of public opinion. And the challenge for his lawyers is to try to weed out, when it gets to trial, jurors who are going to keep an open mind. I think it'll be extremely difficult. And you take that a step further, it's going to be difficult to find a judge who's not going to be influenced by the court of opinion, because that judge is going to want to make statements that, he's the one who sentenced Harvey Weinstein to 25 years, which is what he's facing in this case.
But ultimately, just really quickly, do you think the trial will go ahead? And if you can, what would you anticipate the verdict to be?
It's way too early to tell. I'm not going to sit here and predict. I will say this, Harvey Weinstein has deep pockets, and that's going to allow his lawyers to employ investigators to get things that happened, for example, in Strauss-Kahn's case, which wasn't so much Brafman as it was the prosecutors doing some due diligence, which they couldn't do because they had to arrest him quickly before he went back to France. And they were able to find phone records between the maid and her boyfriend, who was in jail, and talking about how much money they were going to make off this case.
Thank you, Vinoo. Well, Vinoo, I want to come back to you a moment for a legal question. We heard in that report there that one of the women, Ambra Gutierrez, she actually had a wire put on her by the New York police, and she went to speak with Harvey Weinstein. Let's hear a little bit more of that.
Yesterday you touched my breast.
Oh, please, I'm sorry. Just come on. I'm used to that.
But
Come on.
are you used to that?
Yes, come in.
No, but I'm not used to that.
5 minutes. Don't ruin your friendship with me for 5 minutes.
Vinoo, what does it take for the police to move on Weinstein?
Not much for the police, but it wasn't really about the police not arresting him. It's up to the district attorney's office in a case like that whether to prosecute. And the district attorney's office has more stringent standards, and they determined that there were issues with her credibility. Look, you can take any statement out of context, right? But there was stuff about this model that came out that the DA investigated and determined that she wasn't credible. Of all the charges, she was only from 3 years ago. They could have brought those charges this time, and they chose not to. It clearly shows that there were a lot of problems with her credibility.
Fair enough, Vinoo. Okay, thank you for that. Well, let's hope so, Jaman. It's a positive note to finish on anyway. Jaman Short, thank you very much for your contribution to the Nexus today. Vinoo Varghese, thank you, and also Asad Beg. Thank you all for your contributions to the Nexus today. Well, that is all we have time for this week. Don't forget, you can see all our previous episodes on our YouTube channel. But for now, thank you for watching, and see you next week.